Derrick White was a beast. The Boston Celtics overcome a bad second quarter, a true team effort in a win over the Chicago Bulls, and I'm talking about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every single day, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts on the weekends when they play with a free, fresh podcast that drops directly to your device. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Let me know what you're thinking about the game, what I'm talking about, anything. I'm John Karalis. If you're new to the show, I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And today I am talking about the Celtics 129-112 win over the Chicago Bulls. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to fast or post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Bonus podcast is Saturday night after the Knicks game. That is a YouTube only show. I apologize for that, but it's because we're making a transition behind the scenes on our audio feeds. That means that nothing audio wise is going out this weekend. It's so only YouTube for the post Knicks game, which I will be doing, and I will be doing from New York. So make sure you're watching the podcast there. All right, so the Celtics get the 129-112 win. Later on, I'll talk about Tatum MVP conversation. That's something that's come up. I'll get into the second quarter, the response, and all of that stuff. Derrick White. Let's start with the three-point shooting. Let's start with math. Let's start with what Joe Mazzulla loves the most, and that's math. The Boston Celtics win this thing by 17 points. They won all but the second quarter, where their defense just completely stopped. They stopped completely. They played great in the first quarter, played great in the third quarter. They played great through most of the fourth quarter, and then garbage time and all of that stuff. They kind of, coasted a little bit down the stretch. But the three-point shooting was the biggest difference. It's the thing that jumps off the page the most here, because the Celtics went 23 of 47 from three, 49%, and the Bulls went 10 of 28, 35.7%. The math is the math, and we talk about Joe Mazzulla all the time, and he'll look at this and say, hey, look, man, Chicago hit 34 two-pointers. Boston hit 22. Chicago outscored Boston by 24 from two. The Celtics hit 23 three-pointers to Chicago's 10. That's a 39-point difference. So the Bulls hit 34 two-pointers. The Celtics hit 23 three-pointers. And the difference is 15 points. The Celtics had two more free throws. There's your 17-point win. So let's just start with that. This is why the three-point shot is so prevalent. This is why they rely on it so much. This is why Joe Mazzulla pushes it so much. This is why the league pushes it so much. The math is what the math is. The Bulls outshot the Celtics by 11. That's not great. They had 13 offensive rebounds to Boston's 5. They had 14 second chance points to Boston's 6. They beat Boston up in the paint 50-30. They did all of these things that people say, you got to do this. You got to get to the rim. You got to get into the paint. And it's true. You've got to get into the paint. You also have to use that stuff to flow into the rest of your offense. And what the Celtics did that the Bulls couldn't is take a bunch of 3-pointers, 47 3-pointers to, what would that be? 36 2-pointers. That's just an insane disparity, but they were hitting their shots. This is a team that you maybe want to shoot more 3-pointers against. That was the game plan, and that's what they did, and it worked out. So right away, first take right off the bat is the math is the math, and if you're hitting, you keep taking, and that's it. If it goes away, then you can figure it out. If you go cold, you can figure it out. But to put up that many 3-pointers, it's a lot of 3-pointers, 47 3-pointers out of 83 shots. They did get to the line 21 times. So the 83 shots is a little misleading. 21 free throws means they had probably another 9 shots or so. When you count a few and ones and penalty and all of that stuff. So they probably got up to into the 90 or so shot range. And they did shoot 54% overall. It's not like they didn't hit their 2-pointers. They just didn't take as many because the 3-pointers were there and the 3-pointers were falling. And they were all, I would say they were all good shots. Derrick White was 5 of 10 from 3. Derrick White's first quarter set an immediate tone. This was a great first quarter from Derrick White. 12 points on 4 of 7 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line. But really, it's the 3 blocks and a steal that he had in the first quarter. The 2 blocks on Nikola Vucevic were like the first block was on the help. He came over and helped, and he blocked the shot. That's going to happen from time to time. A guy like Derrick White is going to come over and help and block some shots. That's how it works. But the shot that he blocked straight up, you don't know how hard it is to block a person straight up when you're face to face with that person, and to block him just straight up. That's the toughest block shot to get in all of basketball. And White did it because he's anticipating. He knows the player, he knows the personnel. Like that is maybe the most impressive part of what Derrick White was able to do, where he said, I know he kind of likes to take that little quick hook shot. So you know that he likes to go to his left and he likes to take that quick hook shot. And Derrick just kind of steps up and swats it. Amazing. And think about having a guard that can switch onto a big and know the big's tendencies, right? Like, he's not just studying the guard's tendencies. He's not sitting there saying like, oh, I might have Ayo Dosunmu, I might have Kobe White, I might have Alex Caruso, and so I know their tendencies. He switches on to Nikola Vucevic, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I know what this guy likes to do as well. And when he knows what this guy likes to do, he gets to go out there and anticipate stuff, and he gets these blocked shots. Derrick White, an amazing game from him. 28 points overall, 9 of 14, 5 of 10 from 3, 5 of 5 from the line, 5 assists there for him. Really the star of the game, but the defense. And the first quarter, I should say, the defense is what fueled 16-point lead. It was 16, and then it slipped to 8 by the end of the first quarter. But that 16-point lead was all defense. The Celtics blocked 7 shots in the first quarter. That defense was on point. Then things got a little hairy. Tatum came back into the game. Tatum did not have a good first half. He needed to have a big third quarter, which I'll get to in a few minutes. Actually, I'll get to it in a minute here. But it was Derrick White that fueled that huge lead early on. And then he just defensively throughout the entire game was right there on point. Derrick makes so many great plays. All right. So they get through the first quarter up 8. Then in the second quarter, they are down 3 at the half because they give up 39 points. Let's talk about that second quarter, The response to that coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, your size, and your budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. And when we say for you, everybody's different. So you have your different styles. You just give them your size, your style, what you normally like to wear, the budget, and you get the boxes when you want, how you want. No subscription. They send 5 just for you pieces, outfit recommendations, styling advice. You keep what works, you send back the rest. It's super easy. They send the just right pieces. The fit is always on point, and they have styles. They have like 6 cents for styles. They just will, after a while, they will get you and be able to send you stuff that you probably won't be sending back very often. They make it so easy. You just save time. You don't have to go out shopping. You don't have to try things on. You get outfits that look good, make you feel good. If you don't love something, send it back. All of that shipping, return, exchanges is all always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24/7 national sports streaming channel on YouTube, now available on Amazon Fire TV. Go check it out on the free Fire TV channels app on Amazon Fire TV. Watch it on YouTube. You get all the big national shows, all the big national stories, all the great sports conversations. And every once in a while, Locked On Celtics will show up there. So go find that on YouTube or, the little YouTube graphic glitch there, or the Amazon Free Fire TV channels app. All right, let's get back to this game here where the Celtics in the second quarter completely fell apart defensively. They still scored 28 points. Jaylen Brown was awesome in that second quarter. He had 14 points in the second, 5 of 7 shooting, 3 of 4 there. He finished the game with 21 on 7 of 12 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, 4 of 6 from the line, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal, a block, 2 turnovers, just 2 turnovers for Jaylen Brown. So good game for Jaylen Brown. That second quarter, he was huge in that second quarter. Kind of clutch play at the end of the second, because it very easily could have been Celtics were down 3. They blew that 16-point lead. They were down 3. Could have been worse. They could have been down 10 if somebody didn't get hot to match what the Bulls were able to do. Look, the Bulls aren't very good, but they figured a couple of things out. And when they get out into transition, and if they get second chance points, which they got 16 in the second quarter, Andre Drummond was part of that. They got it was offensive rebounds. It was running off of misses. It was putting pressure on the Celtics and getting to the rim at will. Just getting to the rim at will. 39 points, and only 15 of those were from 3. They did get this is where they did most of their damage from 3, but still they got to the rim where the Celtics blocked 7 shots in the first quarter. They blocked none in the second. They only finished with 4 rebounds in the second quarter. Jayson Tatum came in at the end of the first quarter, and he just had a real rough stretch where he wasn't being as aggressive. I think he was just kind of bad defensively. It was a real bad stretch there. They kind of lost their focus. As Scal said, they lost their force. And if it wasn't for Jaylen, this could have been a really different game. That second quarter was a disaster, but the third quarter response was impressive. That's where I think the Celtics have been a big improvement this year. Whenever you have a response to a bad quarter, that just shows that resilience, that solid mindset Okay, bad quarters are going to happen. That happens in most games. One team has at least one quarter where they start to hit shots, and maybe it's the bench, maybe whatever it is, you get hot. The Celtics have, generally speaking, been able to avoid multiple quarters where they have disasters. This game, they had bad second quarter, no questions asked. There was a horrible second quarter. They talked about it at halftime. They came out 8-0 run to start the third quarter, which expanded into a 27-10 run in the third quarter. And that's where the entire game turned around. All of a sudden, that lead heads back up. They outscore Chicago by 11 in the third. This is Jayson Tatum's quarter. He had a bad first half. Then he comes out of the half and scores 15 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3. He had 3 assists on top of that and was a plus 16 in the third quarter. It could be a different guy every night and a different guy every quarter for the Celtics, which is part of what I'm going to talk about in the next segment. But this response here where Tatum was like, hey, you know what? I sucked. I came out foggy after the All-Star break. Let me take care of this and put this game away. It's a big response, and I'm really impressed by the Celtics this year for not stringing a lot of these bad quarters together. They've had some bad games, no doubt about it, and a couple of those bad games were fairly recent. But generally speaking, throughout the course of this season, they have been able to avoid that, which is why they're number one in the East by a mile, 44-12. By the way, the Cavs lost. So if the Celtics continue to win 78% of their games, that this game might have clinched it, because the Cavs losing, I told you before, if Boston gets to 64 wins, Cleveland had to go 29-0. So this loss right there, immediately, they're not going to be 29-0. So this gives the Celtics a little bit of wiggle room. They're 7 games up in the East. They have a bit of a cushion. Now they go to New York on Saturday. That's going to be a tough game. They're going to be up for that. But because of their answers, they constantly consistently have been able to answer their own troubles, their own bad quarters. And after the game, Joe Mazzulla talked about that and gave the guys, a fair amount of praise, saying their basketball IQ as a team is really growing amongst each other. The internal communications between the guys, they have the understanding of why things aren't going well and when they are, and they can quickly get back to that with really good execution. This is growth. This is where the Celtics are different than last year. Yes, it's a similar team, but it's not the same team. The depth is what makes them so great, and it's that ability to bounce back, understand what's happening, understand why they've given up the runs like they did, and say, hey, you know what? We gave up a ton of second chances in that third quarter. Second chance points in the third quarter, 4-2 Chicago. In the second quarter, it was the 16. It was 16 to 6 points in the paint. In the second quarter. In the third quarter, it was 12 to 6. But second chance points in the third quarter, 4-2 is really like that's where you take control of the game and you stop giving up these second chances. You stop giving them the opportunities to get the putbacks. You stop giving them the opportunities to get out and run. That's response. That's resilience. That's where the Celtics won this game. In the fourth quarter, we got to see a little bit of Jaden Springer. We got to see a little bit of Xavier Tillman. And I'm not going to make any judgments based on garbage time, but they showed a little bit of something. Tillman gets, he gets, a couple of little stats. Springer didn't do much. He missed the corner 3-pointer, but taking control of that third quarter is what changes the entire dynamic of this game and takes the Celtics from what you might have expected, like, oh, here we go, bad second quarter, heading into, here comes the meltdown. They've got a lead, or they had a lead, they gave it up. They're not worried. They're not focused after the All-Star break. I'm impressed that they came out as focused as they did. I thought this was going to be a little bit of a dicey game, and okay, Porzingis was not great, and Tatum was not great for the first half. But other than that, everybody else came to play. So shout out to the Celtics. Shout out to their resilience. It's a different team this year. Jayson Tatum, the MVP noise is getting louder. Thank you, Stephen A. Smith. I think this game showed us why he's not going to be the MVP. I'll talk about that in just a second. Thanks for making a Locked On Celtics. Oh, wait, nope. I got to do this part first. That's what happens when you podcast at 2:30 in the morning. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay has partnered up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you the best fantasy picks each week. So whether you're prepping for your daily draft, scouting the waiver wire, they're going to give you the players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So here are this week's picks by Josh, the eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Starting with Trey Mann with LaMelo Ball status still up in the air. He can be grabbed in fantasy leagues as the Hornets point guard. Kelly Olynyk is someone you can go to. Marvin Bagley is the only center left in Washington, so he has a chance to put up numbers. Keontae George is now Utah's starting point guard. He's a name to watch for. Scoot Henderson is going to be starting in Portland the rest of the season. So inefficiency, yes, but he's a starting point guard and will put up points. And then Ayo Dosunmu, who we saw put up some really good numbers here for Chicago. He played 40 minutes, so that's good for your fantasy league. He put up 14 points, but 2 of 6 from 3. He had 7 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal. He filled it up a little bit here for this point of the season. If you can grab somebody like Ayo Dosunmu, that would be a pretty solid pickup. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Now I get to say thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA, rotating hosts all week long. I generally have the Wednesday show with Jake Madison. They play on Tuesday, so I'm not going to be there this next Wednesday, but make sure you're subscribed for when I am there. Great hosts all week long. It's a fun show covering the entire league. So go check it out wherever you got this podcast. Stephen A. Smith started this whole big movement. Jayson Tatum as the MVP frontrunner. About a week ago, he was on ESPN. He said, hey, best player, best team, right? And okay, yeah, it's a nice thought. Best player, best team. And it's kind of caught fire. So shout out to Stephen A. Smith for driving the conversation, because that's what he does. And he's one of the best at it. But I think this Bulls game is the argument against Tatum to be the MVP. And I think this is why he's still down at the fourth or fifth spot. Embiid is done, so he's no longer a candidate. I think Jokic is going to be your front runner. Doncic gets some love. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets some love there at the top. And then Tatum's kind of in that mix right after those guys. And I get it. He is the best player on the best team. And so that immediately is like, well, how are you not the MVP or a big part of the MVP conversation? But if you just look at this game, you see Derrick White come out with 12 points in the first quarter. You see Jaylen with 14 in the second quarter. You see Jayson come in with a big third quarter. And it's a different guy each quarter. It can be whichever guy gets hot. And you get Drew Holiday getting, hitting some shots that seem timely. And he seems to be doing a lot of stuff. Even though he ends up with just 9 points, it could be anybody at any time. And so I am taking exception with the, hey, best player, best team thing. My focus, I think, is more on the best team part, because that's where that's the story of the Celtics season. If you're saying to me, well, what's the story of Boston's season? Well, what's the story of Denver season last year? Jokic was out of his mind, playing out of his mind. He had an MVP season. What was the story of the Sixers last year? Well, aside from James Harden and, no show and all that stuff, Embiid had a monster season. Tatum had a monster season, but the Celtics, he's having a good season this year. But the story of this season is Derrick White making an all-star push, Kristaps Porzingis being a mismatch for everybody every night, Jaylen Brown playing some of the best basketball of his life, being a mid-range master. Tatum is part of this story, part of this mix, and he's the best player, and the Celtics are the best team. So no one's arguing that the Celtics aren't the best team. No one's arguing that. I'm not arguing that he's not the best player on the best team, but also by simply saying he is that, I feel like it's being dismissive to the best team part, because it inherently gives Tatum a lot of credit for stuff that other guys are doing. And what I want is not to cut Tatum down. Tatum's having a great season. Tatum is sacrificing. Tatum has willingly taken a step back. And he said after this game, I know I can score 30 every night. I know I can do that stuff. That's not what the team needs. So he's giving the team what it needs. So, I mean, in a way, that does make him most valuable, because he understands what the team needs and he's giving it to them. But in the more traditional sense of a guy putting up big numbers and having the best season and being the best player in the league this year, he's just taking the step back that he is taking is, I think, it's hurting his MVP chances, but it's giving him a better chance at winning a championship. And that's what he's focused on. So I'm not sitting there saying like he's not the best player on the best team. What I'm saying is the best team part is truly a team. This team is playing true team basketball. And I think that that's where the focus should be. So I am not making an argument for Jayson Tatum to be the MVP, because I don't think he's the MVP. I don't think he's playing in that mode. And I think that's a choice that he's making. And that, to me, that's a compliment. That's a compliment to him. He's making this choice and it's helping the team. And he's taking away the argument that he's kind of chased a little bit over the course of the last few years. But this makes me kind of like, yeah, I respect this. I respect his mindset here. So I'm not going to take away from what all of these other guys do. Jaylen, Porzingis, who had a bad game, but White, Holiday, those guys do a lot. Hauser, Horford, they do a lot. Cornette, who was awesome for stretches in this game and had, elite celebrations again, even though he almost broke Sam Hauser's face. There's a lot going on with this team, and I don't want to minimize it by just saying, well, Tatum's the best player on the best team, and so he gets blah, 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 Tatum. I think, I love what Tatum is doing. I think Tatum is growing into this role. I think Tatum should be celebrated by the city of Boston for doing multiple things on and off the court. I believe all that. But Now's not the time to be like making the individual arguments for Tatum, when he's not necessarily the main driver. It's the true team aspect of this. It's Tatum and Brown and Porzingis and White and Holiday and Horford and all those other guys. That's where my focus is. So I hope that argument makes sense. I understand the people saying he's the best player on the best team, and so he should win MVP. Sure. Okay, sure. I get it. But more so, I'm saying the best team is like he's the best player on a team of really, really, really good players. And more than just, the Nuggets having Jamal Murray and a bunch of guys that played their roles really, really well last year. This is more than that. Derrick White is having an amazing season. Porzingis is having an incredible season. Drew Holiday still hasn't even found his stride necessarily scoring-wise, and he's having a good season. So I don't want the focus to be taking off of those guys because the story of this season is everybody, not one guy plus some really good role players. It's everybody. And we saw that in this game. They won this game pretty comfortably, and Tatum had I don't want to say minimal role in this, but there were a lot of other guys that did a lot of other things, and it's all of them. It's everybody. That's special. This is a special team. It's a special team. If Tatum happens to get the MVP in the midst of it, sure, that'd be great. I hope he wins multiple MVPs over the course of his career. But that's not the story of this season, and that's my point. Tell me in the comments section what you think, because I know that this is a debate and people have their thoughts. So if you have your thoughts, go ahead, hop in the comment section of the YouTube page and let me know what you think here. Have that discussion with me. If you are listening on the audio side, you want to continue listening on the audio side, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're not watching on YouTube, go ahead, watch it there. I think it's worth it. And I would love it if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.